So I've done over 15 interviews in the last couple weeks, and the question I cannot answer is why is it that no one has done this yet? Why is it that there are so many well-funded players like the Gongs and Attention of this world, and that no one is doing what I'm doing? I can't make sense of that. And it's kind of freaking me out because if there are no competitors, it's probably a sign that there potentially might be no market. I would be a lot comfortable with this idea that other people are already doing what I want to be doing. My interviews have been going all sorts of directions and I'm kind of blocked because I'm have validated some things really well. Onboarding is messy. People are being thrown in the deep end of the pool. Salespeople are selling things that don't exist. This is true across the board. I've talked to a lot of people about it, and everybody has confirmed this. Coaching being a time suck is not really validated because I've talked to people who do this for 20 hours a week, and I have talked to people who don't believe in it. And I've had a variety of things across the board where I'm being pulled in all directions. So I can't pinpoint what is actually true. Because my idea was initially that people don't have time to coach. And now I know that's not true because there are some people who are spending a lot of time coaching. And what I've come to realize is that the ones who believe in it will do it. And I had a really interesting conversation with a guy I knew who has been running call centers. And he was telling me, like, massive companies, we're talking like phone companies and whatnot. The companies for whom this is a problem have already solved it, and the ones who haven't didn't because they don't care about it. And when he said this to me 2 weeks ago, I was really hoping that it wasn't true, but I respected him enough as a human being to know that he was probably right. And every conversation I've had since then kind of proved his point, because I've talked to small companies who tell me they do daily call reviews and they have put something in place that really works. And other companies who are telling me that they don't need this. So I'm at the point now where I'm realizing the people I've been talking to are probably not the right people. And I'm saying this because my idea was to fill this gap for small companies because price points has been a big friction. And again, this morning I talked to a guy who is the sole sales rep for the company he works for. And a lot of the softwares that he would like to benefit from require you to have at least 2 or 3 seats in order to get it. So for him, it would be a few $100s to get a software for just him, which kind of defeats the purpose. The price tag and the things that are available, like Gong, is going to cost you probably 75 grand before you could kind of set it up and everything. So it's not affordable for small companies. And what I'm realizing is small companies are often in a position where and by small, I mean less than 50 employees. I'm coming across a lot of patterns where people are confirming that it's the dynamics of the teams and the way they function is we are kind of gun to our heads. We need sales tomorrow. And we don't really have the luxury of taking time to structure things because the only thing that matters right now is velocity. And so I need to talk to people who are running bigger sales function. And I need to talk to people who are essentially more busy and harder to reach in order to do that. Heads of sales and people who have buying power, because I started by talking to reps knowing that they didn't have buying power because I wanted to understand their reality and know exactly what the problems they are having were. And I validated all of those really quickly, but then I couldn't get anybody to tell me, I want this and I will pay for it, which is the thing that's missing right now. The other thing that I'm realizing is that the smaller companies, again, below 50 employees, if we're talking about a company that has 3 to 10 reps, they are not structured enough. They don't have a sales enablement person, probably don't have a RevOps either. And the manager is doing a bunch of other things on top of it. So there is nobody at this company whose job it is to take care of what I'm trying to fix. No one is in charge of coaching and making sure the documents are updated and that the reps are saying the right things. It's one of the many things that a manager has to do. And depending on who they are and what they believe in, that might vary across a variety of companies a lot. I'm not saying this is true everywhere, but I've had enough conversations now that I'm seeing the patterns. And that probably explains why a lot of the players in that space are doing enterprise sales and focusing on bigger companies. And that probably also explains why no one cares about the small startups that are like seed or Series A stage, because they don't have the manifestation of the problem that's painful enough to do something about it yet, which again probably confirms that I'm talking to the wrong people. And so now I'm at this crossroad. I have a few options because what I'm doing clearly hasn't been working. I've learned a ton of things, but I wouldn't say that I've gotten conclusive evidence that I'm onto something here. Since no one told me I would like this, please take my money. I need to get there. And I think that's partly my mistake because the way I've set this validation thing was initially to do a 30-day trial where my sole focus was build a really, really small and scrappy MVP for the client that I work with and see if that had value for them. And it did. So after that, I was like, cool, now that I know this is actually something valuable for them, let me figure out if it's valuable for someone else. And in doing so, I just started talking to a bunch of people in sales. And I didn't give myself a milestone per se. I just kind of was like, let me just talk to a bunch of people and figure out if this is valuable for someone. But I didn't set a number. I didn't set an expected outcome. The expected outcome was obviously to have some kind of design partner or someone who was willing to pay me for it. But I didn't set a time frame for this to happen, and I didn't expect the validation that I was going to do to turn out the way it did, which is probably not surprising. I feel like something needs to change, and I need to tighten my approach so that I actually get somewhere. And in order to do that, I think I have a couple of options. The first option is go upstream and talk to heads of sales who have buying power and see if I can actually get conversations far enough to get someone who would want this and pay for it. And the milestone being someone says, yes, let's do this together. Help me fix this issue that I have. Give me money for it. I'm going to try and do at least 5 interviews with people with that specific persona, with the expectation of having at least 1 or 2 who would say, yes, I have this problem, and yes, I want to fix it, and I want to fix it with you in the time frame of like a couple weeks. And if I can't make that happen, then I need to have a hard conversation with myself about what I'm doing and where I'm going with this. I have a couple of other things that I've uncovered during the validation, which is, I guess, my option 2 is to pivot. Because I think the coaching part is the first idea I had. I have realized that the onboarding is a very high friction point for a lot of people. But again, I don't know that it's a problem worth solving for this specific persona of people that I've been talking to. Because if I go along with this reasoning that my friend had, the people for who it is a problem have already fixed it. And the one who haven't, it's because they don't care about it. I have now also learned that some people design shit onboarding on purpose. And someone actually just posted this a couple days ago and someone tagged me in it, which also validates this mentality of we want people to figure it out on purpose and see if they're good fits. So whatever I would end up doing also clearly isn't for everyone, and that's okay. Onboarding is one of the aspects that I've looked at. And then there's also the idea of documentation and kind of keeping playbooks updated. I haven't researched that too much, but I have had a conversation with a woman who does sales enablement who told me the biggest thing on her plate that's always a to-do that she never has time to do and should be done is this. And I haven't, I don't even know how I would go about it yet, but someone reached out and mentioned, hey, there's this company I invested in that actually does this. So there's a space. There's things that are happening, and there are a couple of verticals that are like sales related that I'm uncovering that could be interesting. But I want to push the coaching thing further to kind of see if that's worth looking into more or not before I decide to dismiss it completely. So option 1 is doing more interviews. Option 2 is pivoting. And then option 3 is just kind of dropping it and moving on to other things. I have plenty of other ideas I want to explore. There's one that I'm really excited about, like construction, which is probably the next thing I would do if this doesn't pan out. So as of today, I'm going to do more interviews. I'm going to spend at least another week on this to try and figure out the coaching side of it. I think there's a big gap between the descriptive and the prescriptive, which is what most of the tools are doing. If we're looking at conversations intelligence or sales intelligence, I mean, they all have different names, but they're all essentially the same thing, which is a report card. You spoke 53% of the time. The client said this, you said that. But then there's this gap between this and what I want to do, which is a human being needs to take that and then do something with it, which is the thing that doesn't happen. So I want to see if there's a world to take the feedback and then help the reps integrate the feedback and not just say, yo, do this, but then you could say this instead of that, and also make a plan for that to happen and measure the difference and the improvement. That's kind of like the wedge I really want to tackle. So the plan for the next 7 days is the following. Do more outreach, book more meetings. I already have 3 or 4 booked for next week, but I'm going to try and do at least twice that amount. Talk to people who have a managing position at a company who run sales motion and have power/money to spend money. Power to spend money. That makes sense, right? I want to talk to a decision maker who can say, yes, I will give you money, and here's that money. That's the combo I want. And then hopefully find a design partner or someone who, I guess that's what you call them, design partners. And if that doesn't happen, then I will either pivot or start something else. I'll see. See you.